Welcome in. It's a Victory Tuesday edition of Golden Black Radio. I'm your host, Derek Schultz. Thanks so much for joining us. The Boilers impress with a 49-0 blanking of Indiana State on Saturday at Ross-Ade Stadium. We'll briefly touch on that win. We'll talk bye week. We'll get some injury updates from what head coach Ryan Walters had to say from our buddy Tom Dienhart in just a little bit. But first, let's thank our sponsors, Purdue Federal Credit Union, a proud partner of Purdue Athletics and the official credit card for Purdue fans. Boiler up. East End Grill and Ripple & Company, two distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street, the perfect place for your next event. And our friends at the Whitaker Inn for unparalleled comfort and cuisine. Visit the Whitaker Inn. And now the second man in our conversation is Tom Dienhart, who was there, obviously, like I was. I'm not actually at Ross-Ade right now, sleeping in the press box or anything like that, Tom, but you said it last week. You wanted the Boilers to come out and leave no doubt, and I think it's fair to say that they left no doubt on Saturday afternoon with a 49-0 win.
Yeah, you're right. The words glorified exhibition come to mind. We talked off camera a little bit. That's probably pretty apt description of what went on Saturday. I think a lot of people also thought, Derek, not only did Purdue need to win Saturday, they needed to win. They needed to do so in an impressive fashion, sort of send a statement. And I think most would agree, right, that pitching a 49-0 shutout, racking up 583 yards of offense, only giving up 154, that certainly was impressive and sent a statement. The team was pretty sharp, Derek Schultz. Now, if you want to find one nit to pick, and Ryan Walters mentioned that again today after practice, was the 11 penalties, right?
Yeah.
He thought some of them weren't merited, but still, penalties are penalties, and he knows he got to get those cleaned up. And you know what? It gave him something to harp on with the team, and I got their attention. I'm sure so he liked that.
Yeah, if we're not talking about the 11 penalties, then we might be talking about 650, 700 total yards of offense, right? For Purdue, if not some of those called back on holding and things like that. And oddly, it was that one flurry there late in the second quarter where they all seemed to happen. I think there were 3 holding penalties on that drive, and then I think the roughing the passer, which was kind of a call, ended up happening during that sequence as well. So a lot of things that get cleaned up, but it's nice to know what those things are and to work on those things while you're facing an opponent, Tom. Look, they're in state, and I appreciate I've got a lot of Indiana State people in my life, but that was a Sycamores team that I don't know if they couldn't throw or wouldn't throw. I don't know if they played that game 100 times if Indiana State would get within 3 or 4 touchdowns at Purdue. Yeah,
they were pretty limited offensively. It's a program, I believe, only won one game last year. Kurt Mallory's trying, but you're right, Derek. The passing game was especially rudimentary. Still have the stats pulled up. 5 of 10 passing for 50 yards. So there you go, my friend. Yeah. And that's a good series for a lot of quarterbacks. Not a good game, but you're right. They were pretty limited offensively. Again, Purdue, they got after it. How about Will Helt, too? Carmel, Indiana kids, sophomore, number 15. Derek, the hype has been building around him all camp. Once Nick Scorton transferred, once Kadrian Jenkins moved to inside linebacker, he was anointed as the next guy off the edge. And he certainly looked good Saturday. Led him in tackles with 7, had 3 TFLs, 2 sacks, and 1 QB pressure. So nice start for number 15 because, Derek, they need another difference maker off the edge. And he took a great first step Saturday.
Yeah, and it made you feel better about what unfolded in College Station because Nick was all over the field against Notre Dame. He was one of the best players out there, albeit in a loss on Saturday night. So it was great to see Will kind of step up and fill that void. As we were talking about ISU's pass offense, Tom, let's talk about Purdue's. Hudson Card, so many other quarterbacks in the Big Ten are new or with a new coach or with a new offense. And it was kind of business as usual with Hudson Card. I think you're the one that pointed this out. Last 3 games now for him, 10 touchdowns, no picks, 800 yards, 66% completion, and a near perfect outing against ISU on Saturday.
Still didn't get him any Big Ten Player of the Week recognition. 24-25, I mean. And the one incompletion was that long pass to Jamal Edrin, the long attempted pass, and looked like it was going to connect. I need to go back and take another look at that play for sure to see what happened. But nonetheless, sharp, my friend, sharp. And I was talking to somebody Sunday a little bit, or it was yesterday, about, Purdue really made a concerted effort to try to enhance the weapons around Hudson Card this year. They were a little bit more pedestrian last year, especially at wide receiver. And they didn't want Hudson to feel like he had to be Superman and had to do everything and try to take off too big of a bite. And I asked Walters today about that receiving core, Derek, and it definitely looks a lot different this year. They're bigger, they're much bigger, and they've got more speed. He mentioned those two things. That was their basic template. We saw guys like Jamal Edrin, 6'3", 215. We saw Leland Smith, Derek, the junior college transfer, 6'4", 6'5", make that great 31-yard touchdown catch over somebody's head in the end zone. Some big guys and some speed as well. They sort of led the way. And again, Hudson Card certainly has a wealth of weapons to throw it to. And I didn't even talk about the tight ends. What do you think of Max Clare?
Yeah, great outing for him. 5 catches, 71 yards, a touchdown. He looked terrific. And I love the distribution. And I get it, Tom. They're rotating in second and third team guys in a blowout, but 12 different players with a catch. I mean, that's what you want for a warm-up game, a glorified exhibition, to use your words, like they had on Saturday.
Yeah, you're right. Really spread it around. Makes everybody feel good, doesn't it, Derek? Mm-hmm. I think, everybody practices. It's a lot of drudgery, man. And it's not real glorious sometimes. You're out there by yourself, practicing, sweating. Nobody's watching. And to get a payoff, to get a chance to score a touchdown, 7 different players scored touchdowns. I think they were all their first career Purdue touchdowns as well. You mentioned the wealth of pass catchers. I think 8 of those guys were wide receivers. All 4 running backs saw action too, right? We saw the walk-on Elijah Jackson race about 69 yards for a touchdown. He scored. Jaheim Merriweather, the true freshman, he scored well as well. Reggie Love scored. So again, everybody has to kind of feel good about themselves. Got a chance to chip in. I think they emptied the bench, my friend. If you would have been dressed on the sidelines, I think you would have gotten in the game Saturday.
Ryan Walters, yeah, he does not want me in there. Trust me, Tom.
But they emptied the bench. It was nice. And again, they basically checked every box save for the penalties. And it went just, you couldn't have written a much better script. So here we are. This is all set up perfectly for Purdue, right? They moved this game because they didn't want to play week 0 because they wanted this extra week to prepare for Notre Dame. They clobbered Indiana State. They're getting healthy, and they got 2 weeks to prepare for the Fighting Irish's visit here to West Lafayette. The first time their shadow will have darkened Ross-Ade Stadium since 2013.
Yeah, it's wild to go that far back. I believe Tommy Rees was the starting quarterback for Notre Dame in that game, right? That's how long it's been.
That's a deep cut.
Yeah. Good job. And we'll talk plenty of Notre Dame coming up next week. Obviously, this is the bye week. But wanted to also ask you, Tom, any injury updates, anything that Ryan Walters had to say about some of the Boilers that may be nicked and bruised up following Saturday's win?
Yeah, there were quite a few, maybe 10 guys out overall, Derek, but 5 key guys didn't play Saturday. No surprises. We knew Nyland Green, the cornerback, was going to be out with a foot injury. We knew C.J. Smith, the wide receiver, was going to be out with a hamstring injury. Ryan Walters said today, Derek, if there was a game, they would not be playing. Their status is still, I think, TBD'd, and we'll have to wait and see where they're at come next week. So they certainly weren't green-lighted at this point. Now, 3 other players, Cam Brown, a wide receiver from UCLA, Joe Anderson, a defensive lineman who probably was a projected starter, and Corey Stewart, Derek, the number 1 left offensive tackle, all missed Saturday. Ryan said they will be good to go. So that was good news. So again, Nyland Green, maybe their best cornerback, C.J. Smith, one of their top 2 or 3 receivers. We'll have to wait and see when you get into next week to see what their status is.
We'll talk a little bit more about what Ryan Walters had to say today to Tom and the gathered media. Also take our first brief look at Notre Dame before we get deep into it next week. But wanted to, again, thank some of our sponsors that make Golden Black Radio possible, including Sand Valley Resort. If you're heading to Camp Randall to see the Boilermakers take on the Wisconsin Badgers on October 5th, you could sign up to win 4 tickets to the game, plus an overnight stay at Sand Valley, which is your new winter resort getaway, just an hour and a half from Madison. Visit sandvalleypursuits.com/Purdue giveaway to enter. Anything else that Coach Walters had to say that struck your interest in the wake of that win, or even leading up to the preparations for Notre Dame? I know the guys had a day off yesterday for Labor Day, like most Americans, right? But hitting the ground running here and taking full advantage of this extended time to prepare for perhaps a legitimate national title contender in the top 10 ranked Irish.
Yeah, no, nothing really super. As far as revelations go, came out of Coach Walters today. I think I've hit the highlights. You're right. Labor Day weekend, swimming pools are closing, my friend. Your last chance to get that final cannonball in of the summer of 2024. But yeah, I mentioned the injuries, talked about the film review. You know, the top guys on the team, the starters today, Derek, on Tuesday, they really weren't out there very long at all. Ryan said they came out and warmed up, went back in and worked out. The second stringers spent more time on the field. The squad will be more assembled here later in the week. They're going to start doing some Notre Dame prep as well here on Wednesday. So, yeah, they're starting to tip their hand and look forward to the Irish, and they'll have plenty of time to get ready. But, again, it'll be a little bit lighter week than usual, given the fact that, again, like you said, it's the Boilermakers bye week. And, Derek, there's also going to be another bye week at the end of October. So this is the first of two for Purdue this fall.
Yeah. It comes down to more than just, the quarterbacks. Understand that. But Tom, I'm really fascinated by Hudson Card against what looks like almost an NFL level secondary, what Notre Dame puts out there on the field with Benjamin Morrison and Xavier Watts, one of the best playmakers in the country. And even Christian Gray had a great night against Texas A&M being thrust into that role. That Notre Dame defense, at least if we're talking this century Notre Dame teams, I think it ranks right up there with, I guess the 2012 team with like Manti Te'o and that group, but, legitimate NFL talent across that entire defensive unit for Notre Dame and Card and Purdue's new pass catchers and the running backs, acclimating themselves and threatening that defense, which is going to be a really tough challenge.
Yeah, well, here we go, right? Here we go, my friend. This is what it's all about. These are the games you're measured against. These are the games that make your reputation. And we talked last week, Derek, about the importance of this opening month of September, how it was going to really define the season. Purdue's going to obviously be an underdog here, but, with 2 weeks of preparation, who knows, man, maybe they can pull a stunner here. But this would be a great measuring stick for Purdue. This is jumping in the deep end of the swimming pool. And what a matchup you talked about, the Purdue offense against the Notre Dame defense. Like I said, this is what you live for. We'll see how good Hudson Card really is. Those windows to throw into are going to get a lot tighter, and they're not going to stay open very long against these guys. Can the Boilermaker receivers get physical, win those contested balls? Can they run by Notre Dame defenders? On and on it goes. Can they protect Hudson Card? So, again, Notre Dame's going to have its hands full, you think, trying to cover the array of options Purdue has, because there's plenty of them we've already talked about. At tight end and receiver and even running back too. Maccabee and Love can catch the ball. They can run the ball. So maybe that's the matchup that ends up deciding the ball game next Saturday I should say on September 14th when the Irish come here to West Lafayette.
And the crowd, I think they'll have to do it too. Look, I understand that a lot of our pals from Notre Dame end up infiltrating Ross-Ade Stadium. But Tom, on Saturday afternoon, they're facing a team in Indiana State that's, an FCS team, and Purdue is picked to finish last in the preseason poll. And I was there. Every seat was taken. I mean, everybody was there. The fan support has just been tremendous here in the early going for Ryan Walters and carrying that momentum of what Jeff Brom was able to do to get the program back, I feel.
Yeah, biggest home opening crowd I think I saw since 2005. And for a team coming off a 4-8 season, and like you said, for a team picked to finish last, for a team playing an FCS opponent, that was a pretty impressive turnout. You're right. The first of which should be many impressive turnouts in Ross-Ade this fall with Notre Dame and Nebraska and Oregon and Penn State coming here as well as Northwestern. So, yeah, I think they're going to have the crowd behind them. Yes, there will be some Notre Dame fans in the crowd. There's no doubt. Probably a lot of Subway alumni, Derek. I bet you know a lot of Subway Notre Dame alumni. But it's going to be fun, man. This is when you get – this gets you excited, doesn't it? To play a brand like this against a program of this talent level. And, I asked Ryan Walters, have you ever coached or played against Notre Dame? And he did coach against them when he was an assistant at Oklahoma. And he does know Marcus Freeman. He says, it's a small fraternity. All these coaches know each other. So, he has faced Notre Dame eye to eye once. And this would be his second time in his career. And, of course, this time the stakes are a lot higher since he's the head coach. And this could be, maybe it's that signature win that of his young career that he's able to garner here. We'll have to see.
Yeah, as much as it would be nice and probably more beneficial for Purdue to play like Akron or Eastern Illinois, there's just something special about the Notre Dame game and the long history of the two programs and having a marquee non-conference opponent come into your place, which feels like more of a rarity, especially at a place like Purdue. Because as teams go to Atlanta and Vegas and, wherever else that they're playing these big non-conference games, generally speaking, you don't see a lot of the true road ones as much as you used to. Tom, last thought, and just kind of closing the book on week one, you had mentioned this, and I think maybe Alan had as well. Somebody had to be picked to finish last in the Big Ten, right? And week one is not everything, but I think if anything, week one sort of affirmed, us pushing back a little bit on, is Purdue really the worst team in the Big Ten when you look at how UCLA looked, when you look at how Michigan State looked, when you look at what Minnesota did, and some of the other teams that really kind of struggled this weekend in the Big Ten. First off, I refuse to believe that Purdue's going to finish behind UCLA. Okay, I'll put that out there right now. That team stinks. But what were some of your takeaways, I guess, going around the rest of the conference, and did it give you maybe even more optimism for Purdue making some inroads at being perhaps even like a middle pack type Big Ten team instead of 18 of 18?
Yeah, they certainly. I think they show they're capable of much more than that last place finish that has been forecast for them. They handled their business a lot better than a lot of schools handled their business against similar opponents. Even Michigan didn't look that great against Fresno State. Yeah. Ohio State took a while to get on track against Akron as well. And Northwestern really struggled against
Oregon. Struggled as well.
Oregon. How about Idaho was standing toe-to-toe with Oregon for a long time. So you're right. They certainly did not look like the 18th team out of an 18-team conference. So a great first step. And here come the Irish. Notre Dame, they're already battle tested, Derek. They went into College Station, Texas, one of the most hostile environments in America, and they beat Texas A&M. This week, they've got a home game against Northern Illinois, so they will have had another game under their belt. So, yeah, but again, as far as Purdue and the rest of the Big Ten, I think the conference went 17-1 overall, with the one loss being Minnesota. But I think Purdue looked about as good as anybody in the conference that first week out.
Yeah, it goes without saying, better to be feeling good going into a bye and a game like Notre Dame than feeling bad. And I think a lot of Purdue fans are feeling pretty good about not only what they saw from their Boilermakers, but also what kind of befell, I guess, the rest of their opponents coming up for the rest of this season. You can check out Tom's work, of course, goldenblack.com. I'm not sure. I forgot to ask Alan if we're still doing the 50% off membership sale, but regardless, we want you to be a member over here at goldenblack.com. And read all the great coverage from Tom and Brian and the rest of the crew. And he'll have it through the bye week as the Boilermakers prepare for Notre Dame. Final thank you to Purdue Federal Credit Union, the official credit card for Purdue fans, East End Grill, and Ripple & Company, two distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street in Lafayette. Our friends at the Whitaker Inn, the Midwestern oasis, perfect for a relaxing staycation or a weekend getaway. You can escape from the ordinary at the Whitaker Inn. And, of course, Sand Valley Resort, where you can sign up right now, sandvalleypursuits.com, Purdue giveaway to win free tickets for the October 5th battle at Camp Randall between Wisconsin and Purdue. Tom, I know there's really no such thing as a bye week for you, right? Outside of the weekend, I guess maybe you get a little bit of your Saturday back, but thanks so much for joining us as always, and looking forward to talking about the Irish and what's going to be a huge game for Purdue coming up a week from now.
Thank you, Derek.